Your Pittsburgh Steelers were oh so close to pulling off their first ever 17-point fourth quarter comeback. In fact, they got the lead in the end, but it just wasn't enough. But in this loss, you saw several answers to things that I think I've been pointing out all season long about the importance of certain players who were missing in this game. And you also saw how good Justin Herbert can be at times. But you also saw maybe the return of Ben Roethlisberger to being a better quarterback. I'm Chris Carter of the Locked On Steelers podcast. We thank you for making us your first listen every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Steelers fans, I know it's a rough Monday, but I'm here to help you get through it. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you your daily dose of all things on the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, you can find the show on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and of course, YouTube. Like this video on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get all of our content as we host shows Monday through Friday, sometimes Sunday. As you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm not at home. I'm actually on the go here because I'm going to be on WPXI's Final Word. If you missed me on Channel 11 in Pittsburgh last night, you can go to WPXI.com to find the video, or go to DKPittsburghSports.com, both places where you can find me on with former Steelers front office director of personnel, Doug Whaley, who's been on this show, as well as we have a great cast, as well as Doran Dickerson, former NFL tight end and Pitt tight end, on the show. But beyond that, let's talk about this game. It is a tough loss to swallow for sure. The Steelers aren't going to take moral victories. Mike Tomlin expressed that afterwards. He's extremely disappointed that they did not come up with this win because they found some crazy ways to get into this game. This was one of those games that you almost stole away from a team that should have beaten the Steelers. And then this is why I picked the Chargers to win on the Friday show when I was talking with Jenna Harner. Just the weaknesses the Steelers had in this game, when we knew Minkah Fitzpatrick wasn't going to come back, when we knew TJ Watt wasn't going to play, when we knew Joe Hayden wasn't going to play, even with Ben coming back, I was like, I just don't see this being anything, because Justin Herbert is a good quarterback. He's got good weapons. He's going to eventually figure you out and find ways to make plays. You would need a lot of ridiculous plays to go your way, and you would need to play mistake-free football. They got the ridiculous plays. Miles Killebrew with a heck of a blocked punt that set up a Steelers touchdown shortly after. Cam Heyward knocking the ball up in the air with his helmet, and then Cam Sutton with a remarkable diving interception to keep the Steelers in the game. There was a lot of really good effort in this game, but you just saw the realities. The Steelers were heavily undermanned, and it was costing them. On the last touchdown of the game, Justin Herbert hits Mike Williams for a long play. It was a busted coverage where Cam Sutton was trying to do a little too much on the play. But again, Cam Sutton, he had been your hero for most of the game. Him making one mistake, I'm not going to hang him out to dry and say, oh, he was the sole reason you lost that game. I'm going to point out this was a defense that knew they were up against it. They were giving up lots of points. They gave up 41 points in this game. It was going to be a tall task, however you saw it. I think it's remarkable that with a 7th-round rookie free safety, Tre Norwood, they didn't get beat over the top ridiculously and consistently by this Chargers offense. But you just see all the weaknesses poke out from everywhere. I thought James Pierre fought hard. I thought Cam Sutton fought hard. I thought Cam Heyward is Cam Heyward all the time. That man can run for president for all I care. He is a beast. He is a baller. He is Mr. Pittsburgh Steeler. He personifies everything you want in a football player. But you saw when push came to shove, they picked on Devin Bush. And I'm going to get to Devin Bush later because if you guys have been watching the show, I've been a person that said be patient with Devin Bush. This was a rough game for him. But I'm going to get to him in a little bit here on the podcast. But then also, you see on the offensive line, Kevin Dotson was out, but you saw J.C. Hassenauer go in there, just try to hang on, and then eventually he gets hurt. And then in the final drive of the game, Joe Haig just gets bowled over twice for 2 sacks that basically killed the Steelers on their final drive with any hopes of pulling off a comeback touchdown drive to finish the game. Yes, this is a depressing loss because now you're 5-4-1. Yeah, you were 5-3 just 2 weeks ago with a chance to take first place in the AFC North. If a couple bounces go your way, you're probably sitting here at 7-3 and feeling really good about your season. But here you are at 5-4-1, not feeling too good about this. Not in last place, but certainly not where you want to be. Now, looking at this game, if you're going to take away positives, one thing may be that Ben Roethlisberger was able to throw the ball. Yes, the Chargers defense is not good, but the fact that he was throwing the ball over the middle, the fact that he was finding rhythm, Chase Claypool was getting into it, Diontae Johnson, spectacular touchdown catch, spectacular catch down the sideline for him. Pat Freiermuth caught some passes. Those were all good signs. They found ways to move the ball, and they didn't have a run game this week. But that's a positive to take away. But it's what I brought up. It's what I brought up last week. At some point, you can say next man up all you want. You can use that as a hype up slogan or anything like that. But if you keep losing players left and right, eventually you're going to be undermanned. Eventually, healthier NFL teams are going to beat you. They're gonna find ways to beat those guys. It's remarkable the Steelers hung in this game. There were a lot of different ways. I thought this was over when the Chargers went up. I think it was 27-10, it was really 24-10 when Austin Eckler scored on the touchdown coming out of the second half. I thought that the Steelers' best hope was to get a turnover there. They held them to a field goal. Then they get a field goal and a touchdown to respond to that. They give up a touchdown. One thing for sure, the Steelers' run defense it can't hold up unless it has all their players in there right now. TJ Watt not being in there hurt obviously, but just not having Stephon Tuitt and Tyson Alualu, it's making it that much harder for guys to come up and make plays. They allowed Justin Herbert to rush for 90 yards. We're going to get to that in just a bit here, and talking about the problems there. But also Austin Eckler, 11 carries, 50 yards, 2 touchdowns. Not a dominating rushing performance from Eckler, but a situationally killing one when he can run in the red zone and get you 2 touchdowns in that fashion. So definitely problems there. The Steelers have a lot to address when it comes to gap integrity when containing Justin Herbert. 9 carries, 90 yards. I mean, there's just so many times you saw his legs kill you. And a lot of times, though, it wasn't that he dodged a man and broke contain. It was just the Steelers weren't keeping contain on plenty of those plays. And you saw Cam Heyward on one of them track Justin Herbert down 40 yards downfield and bring him down for a huge tackle. But that's the effort that he's kind of putting out there, because eventually when you're putting out Henry Mondeau and all these other guys, Derek Tuxa and all these other guys on the defensive front, you're going to start to get beat there. As much as you can preach, playing disciplined football, they're going to make those mistakes. That's just a reality. Justin Herbert's a heck of a quarterback. We knew that going into this game. This is, again, why I picked the Steelers to lose this game. Just thought there were too many things up against them. But again, they found ways to creep into this game. And this, I think that part is a testament to the fact that the Steelers, they do have the core that doesn't give up in the game. Like Tyler Boyd said, the Bengals receiver said the Steelers gave up early in the season. And, people were talking about, is this Steelers team a team that gives up? This was a team that could have given up. If you were sitting there, you're like, man, Ben just got back. He didn't practice for 2 weeks. We're missing Minka. We're missing TJ. We're missing all these guys, missing Joe Hayden, all these guys. It's fine if we lose this week. They didn't say that. They went out there and they fought and they erased. They even took the lead back after being down by 17 points in the fourth quarter. Just couldn't hold on. I'm going to address some more of the problems in this team moving forward that can be addressed outside of just the injuries just in a minute here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. But first, got to tell you guys about our sponsors, DirecTV Stream. Does this sound familiar? You've got one device that lets you catch the game live, another lets you stream your favorite shows, and then you're watching your sports highlights on your phone, and then you've got your neighbor's best friends log in for the good stuff. Well, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all that entertainment that you love without the hassle, and a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called DirecTV Stream, and it brings your live TV on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part, there's no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at DirecTV.com. That's DirecTV.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package. Back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast, I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you your daily dose of all things of the Pittsburgh Steelers. We thank you for making us your first listen every day. Steelers fans, I know it's got to be tough. You don't want to watch the sports shows because you're going to see them talking about your Steelers and asking all these questions that you don't want to hear asked. So this is where we're going to talk about the things to help you get through your tough Monday, because this was so close to being a victory Monday. Just didn't work out that way for the Steelers. But let's go into some of the things that went wrong in this game. For one, the run defense was just non-existent when they needed to be existent, when it came to containing Herbert. It became a problem, especially in the red zone when Austin Ekeler started to get the ball. Austin Ekeler killed the Steelers really in this game. 6 catches for 65 yards, 2 receiving touchdowns, had 50 rushing yards with 2 rushing touchdowns. That's 4 touchdowns in this game. That's ridiculous. But he's also a heck of a player. It's why they believed in him and they let Melvin Gordon go. And you saw him beating Devin Bush a lot in this game. Now, if you listen to me a lot this year, you know I've been one person. A lot of people say, oh, Devin Bush, he's finished. He's a bust. He's this and that. I still don't say he's a bust because I still say he's recovering from his ACL. But you saw how limited he was in this game when he wasn't able to keep up with Austin Ekeler. Now, granted, Austin Ekeler cooks pretty much all linebackers at some point. Maybe not Fred Warner or Bobby Wagner or those guys, but those are the elite of the elite, but he gives a lot of linebackers problems, especially in single man coverage. And Keith Butler had to come up with some crazy ideas to try and find ways to keep the defense even around in this game. Because again, you're so shorthanded. The Steelers have lived this year by not having to blitz. Why? Because they had a front four they were confident in. You came into the season with Cam Heyward, Tyson Alualu, TJ Watt, and Alex Highsmith with the hope that you get Stephon Tuitt back. With that front four, including Melvin Ingram to start, you didn't have to rush 5. You just rushed your 4. You trust that they would win their matchups. They were one of the, they were getting one of the best pressure rates all season long. But when you lose Tyson Alualu, when you still don't got Stephon Tuitt, when Melvin Ingram wants to go because he feels like he's not getting enough snaps, and then TJ Watt gets hurt, you're all of a sudden down to Alex Highsmith and Cam Heyward. And I'll say this, Alex Highsmith played his heart out in this game. Wasn't perfect, but 6 tackles, 1.5 sacks. You can't really complain about his effort in this game. He fought it. He fought tooth and nail. Same thing for James Pierre, 5 tackles. Didn't have his best game overall, but I thought he was out there struggling and fighting to give the Steelers a chance. And of course, can't say enough about Cam Heyward. A pass batted into the air that wound up to be an interception. 2 tackles. He was fighting every which way he can to be a contributor for this defense. Those guys deserve credit there. But this is what happens when most of your stars are gone on defense. This team was built around having an elite defense. You can't be elite when most of your elite players are gone. Minkah Fitzpatrick, I said this all season long, and I want to give a shout out. I believe it was Clint Fritz. I don't want to get this wrong here. So I'm scrolling through my Twitter feed here. Yes, it was Clint Novak. Excuse me, Clint Novak. It was Clint Novak who tweeted out, people are seeing maybe why Minkah Fitzpatrick hasn't had the splash plays this year. And I've pointed this out on this podcast multiple times this year. I pointed out in the Lolly Carter Steelers podcast at DKPittsburghSports.com. I pointed out in my Carter's Classroom film column. This was why Minkah Fitzpatrick hasn't been the splash playmaker this year, is because he's been covering up so many other parts of the defense that had problems with it, whether it was Arthur Maulet in the slot, whether it was helping cover the middle of the field, whether it was helping James Pierre when he had to first be out there, anything along those lines. He's been saying, hey, instead of being just the center field playmaker X factor guy, he's got to make sure that, hey, if this guy gets beat, I'm protecting to make sure that this play keeps bottled in. I thought Tre Norwood fought really hard. I thought he did a good job for the most of the game, keeping the plays contained. He actually had 7 tackles in this game. It was the second most behind Cam Sutton, but you just saw eventually the communication breakdowns at the wrong times, especially on that last touchdown where Cam Sutton looked like he was trying to jump something else, gave up his spot in the defense, and everything fell apart. Minkah Fitzpatrick's out there. Maybe he doesn't feel like he needs to do that because he knows he's got Minkah behind him. So lots of different issues there. But when you look at Justin Herbert running the ball for 90 yards here, he was the leading rusher for the Chargers. He was the leading rusher in the game, period. When you look at those plays and you think back, man, Justin Herbert, how did he get loose? It's because the Steelers were trying different rushes and they were getting picked up, or when they got picked up, he was able to bounce out. And that's the benefit of an athletic quarterback. I was actually watching the game with Doug Whaley, who's a former Steelers personnel director, former GM of the Bills. We've had him on this show multiple times now. But we were talking about the game, and he said, this was why he said Mike Tomlin's always wanted a mobile quarterback, because he's wanted a guy who could take advantage of these problems. And you see what it does for you when you have a guy that can do that. Justin Herbert, had a pretty good passing game, but whenever the Steelers did have coverage, he was able to run with his feet and extend plays. It crushed the Steelers. And again, in plenty of games against Josh Allen, against Lamar Jackson in the past, we've seen this team bottle up running quarterbacks because they had TJ Watt, they had Cam Heyward, they had Stephon Tuitt, they had Alex Highsmith, and then they could even throw a guy behind them and say, hey, we're so confident with these guys, all you have to do is really spy or just cover the underneath passes. But when you're missing most of those guys, you're not going to be able to maintain gap integrity as well. And that's what happened. Justin Herbert kept hitting him. And credit to the Chargers. They fought their butts off to get in this game. Austin Eckler, a phenomenal game. Keenan Allen, a great game with 112 yards, through the air. Really good job. And again, Justin Herbert, he's going to be a problem in this league for a long time. Also, the Chargers, with the worst rushing defense in the league, they limited Najee Harris to 12 carries for 39 yards. Now, granted, I got to talk about Matt Canada, because this was eventually where I was going to, because I wanted to address all these other things of what went wrong with the Steelers in this game. But the decision when they have the ball in the red zone in the second half, and they throw 3 straight times after last week, you threw 3 straight times and it didn't work. It just baffled me. You have Najee Harris. And there was at one point they tried a jet sweep to Chase Claypool, and you see Ben Roethlisberger just look to the sideline and just shrug like, what do you want me to do? I felt for Ben. I feel for Najee. I asked Najee Harris last Thursday, what do you guys need to do better in the red zone? He just said, run the ball. And you saw when he on that drive, they went to 4th down. They got the defensive pass interference on Chase Claypool. First handoff they give to Najee Harris. He goes over the top, touchdown. I don't get what Matt Canada is doing with that play calling. I don't understand it at all. And you saw throughout the game, eventually the passing game opened up, and the Steelers were just able to do what they needed to do to get points throughout most of the game. But it's baffling to me, and something has to be done when they get down to the red zone. Stop being cute. Bring out Zach Banner. Bring out double tight end, triple tight end if you got to, but use Najee Harris. You drafted him in the first round for a reason. I said it last week that Matt Canada was being too cute. Again, he doesn't seem to be learning his lessons, and it's driving me nuts. And I'm sitting here thinking, and everyone's thinking it. I mean, like, everyone was tweeting out. It's like, what a novel concept, running Najee Harris in the red zone. Great idea. I'm not one to jump all over coaches in most sports, because I always think that there's, I've seen too many times in my life where coaches have been blamed for things that weren't their fault. They get fired, and then the problems remain, and then everyone's looking at the next coach. Oh, it's your fault. And it's like, no, there was an organizational problem, or this player just couldn't do this, or there's a lot of other factors here. A lot of coaches take a lot of fall from people that just want to blame the sky because the sky's not blue at that point in time, and they needed it to be blue. And that's one of my biggest problems with, just blame the coaches blindly. But there are times when there are concrete, tangible problems, and not giving it to your playmaker is a tangible problem. And I'm telling you right now, if the Steelers don't figure that out, that's going to be an issue for quite some time. Now, part of it also, Kendrick Green was getting his butt whooped in the hole again. He's really good when he goes out and blocks in space on the tight end screen pass to Pat Freiermuth. Did a great job leaking out, getting his guy, sealing him, pushing him, blocking him. He's really good at doing that. But if you ask him to block at the point of attack, he's just not getting it done. And maybe that's why he feels not so confident about running it up the middle with Najee Harris. But again, you trust Najee Harris to make it not matter. Of all the things that were most frustrating with this game, I think it was that part of it that just they couldn't. There were just these confounding just decisions on offense to try and do things to be cute and have a trick play here and a trick play there. Trick plays are cool now and then, But again, you have to have a bread and butter. You have to have plays that you know you can go to and I can get 4 yards, 5 yards, 8 yards, 10 yards. These are our go-to plays. And I don't think the Steelers have had that this season. Now, maybe they found some pass plays to Diontae Johnson because I thought he had a phenomenal game. 7 catches, 101 yards, and a touchdown. Maybe they found some things with him to become their bread and butter. But they need more than that. They absolutely do. Now, I got more to talk about here. I want to talk about some of the guys that did, about moving forward. Where are the Steelers? Where are the tangible things that you can actually say, okay, how do the Steelers bounce back from this? Can they bounce back from this? We'll talk about that in just a minute here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. But first, got to tell you guys about Built Bar. Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar ever. If you haven't tried Built Bar by now, you are missing out. They say it's a protein bar, but it doesn't taste like one. You have to try one of these amazing bars yourself to believe it. Most protein bars are chalky, waxy, or just plain hard to choke down, but a Built Bar is soft, covered in 100% real chocolate. And when you bite into it, you know you're eating something different. It's more of an experience, more than experience, one that you'll enjoy. In fact, you'd swear you're eating a candy bar. Built Bars are low carb, low calorie, low fat, low sugar, and high in protein, and all of the healthy benefits on top of just being purely delicious because they have so many flavors. You have coconut, raspberry, mint brownie, coconut almond, salted caramel, double chocolate, and cherry barcia. And guess what? This month, Built is coming out with new limited time flavors every 3 to 4 days. So check their website early and often. You don't want to miss out. Go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your next order. Again, that's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. We're also brought to you by BetOnline. It's Thanksgiving. We all know what that means. Football, and nothing goes better with football than turkey and betting. BetOnline has you covered all holiday season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the sports action this Thanksgiving. Head to the new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today, and you'll receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Be sure to use that promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. That's Locked On, LOCKEDON, all capital letters, all one word. It's not just football, though. BetOnline has pro and college hoops, NHL, boxing, UFC, and even your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season at BetOnline, the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports, and BetOnline, where we're stuffed with deals on this Thanksgiving. Now that we've paid the bills there, let's keep it rolling here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Now, oftentimes after a loss, I'll always try to find, okay, where's the things that you could tangibly touch on? But I said I would do this, and I got to do this more. I got to do this before I get to that. I said I'd talk about Devin Bush, and I did skip him in that last segment because there were so many other things to talk about. But Devin Bush, he has to find something to hold on to. He has to find something that he's going to say, hey, you know what? I may not be good at doing this back here. I may not be good at shedding this block over here, but I'm going to commit to something that makes me a better linebacker this year. And it seems like he is in a daze and he is confused. And I said it before, I don't think he's a bust just yet. We saw Bud Dupree have his rough days for sure. And people told me for years that when I was defending him, oh, Chris, you're crazy. Bud Dupree's not good. And then all of a sudden when he's leaving, oh, we love Bud Dupree. I feel similarly about Devin Bush. But granted, Devin Bush has different problems, torn ACL that he's still definitely not 100% back from. But also he's getting crushed by offensive linemen who are just coming through the hole almost every play and getting to him at the second level. And that's made him, I think, gun-shy. But that's where I have my biggest problem with Devin Bush is that you cannot be gun-shy. You have to go in with your head up. You have to go in fighting every single play. Cam Heyward gets double-teamed a lot. You don't ever see him gun-shy. Granted, tough standard being held to Cam Heyward. But, hey, the standard is the standard with the Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll get to more Devin Bush as the week goes on. We're going to have a lot of time to break down film about this game. I'm here late Sunday night going into Monday morning at Double PXI, waiting to film the final word with Doran Dickerson and Doug Whaley on Channel 11. So that's why you see me not in my house right now and kind of at my on-the-go studio that I've set up here that I kind of just post up wherever I go somewhere. But, again, things to hold on to. One, I really like the effort from several players that needed to step up. Cam Sutton, even though he got beat at the end there, I mean, the fight that he had some really tough tackles. He was firing up the team. He was like, he would hit a guy really hard, and you could see him look to the sideline and say, let's go, follow me. That's the kind of stuff you want in guys when you need somebody to step up. And then him snagging that interception when Cam tipped it up so high. You saw him flying in there, and then he takes a shot to the head. I mean, and I'll say this too, the referees, they weren't as bad as they have been, but Najee Harris getting an elbow to the face while he's defenseless and no call being made was so bizarre. And then Cam Sutton goes to the ground. He's on the ground. He's defenseless, can't protect himself, and a Chargers player dives headfirst at him, hitting his helmet on the back of his. Just both of those plays not being called for head-to-head hits. Don't understand why. But I digress. Cam Sutton, even though he got beat at the end there, I think his effort and what you saw him contributing there was a good sign moving forward. I thought Alex Highsmith's contributions were a good sign moving forward. He had a big sack in the fourth quarter that helped turn the tide in the favor of the Steelers. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough, of course. But I think, you see players like him, players like Tre Norwood. You didn't see Tre Norwood getting beat terribly out there. There were times he was out of position a little bit, but he wasn't, we've seen bad safeties over the years. We saw, who was that guy that they brought that eventually went to the Browns? I forget his name now, but he was there in like 2017, I want to say. They signed him for a year. He was from the Packers. I forget his name. That's how bad he was. He wasn't beat like that. And again, 7th-round rookie, I think that he held his own out there. James Pierre fought hard. I thought Terrell Edmonds got beat a couple times, but he still fought hard. Cam Heyward, you can't say enough about him. But, man, Ben Roethlisberger, if you can get this Ben Roethlisberger for the rest of the season, if something woke up with him in his 2 weeks off because of COVID-19, that could be huge for turning the season around. If they can get TJ Watt back healthy, if they can get Minkah Fitzpatrick back off of COVID, if they can get Joe Hayden healthy, get those 3 guys back, get the defense back to playing the way it was through most of the season. And if Ben can play at this level and maybe figure some things out to get Najee back involved, this Steelers team has a chance. But if they're as hurt up as they were on Sunday Night Football, you're going to see a lot of games like this where they're going to be scraping and having to come up with blocked punts and tipped interceptions and all these other crazy ways to get back in games and probably come up short in them. But still, I still say this team has a chance to fight it out and get their way to the playoffs in this season. As of right now, after this game, they are officially the 8th seed in the NFL playoffs. So they're just outside looking in at 5-4-1. But they have plenty of time to recover. But they do have serious challenges coming up, starting with the Bengals in Cincinnati next week. We break it down more for your Pittsburgh Steelers as the week goes on. I'm Chris Carter here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for watching, whether you're on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Odyssey. We appreciate all of our listeners and all of our viewers because you all really help out the show. And if you want to help out the show, leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts with a positive comment. When you do both at the same time, you help us out. But we also give you a shout out. We give this shout out to Miss Teens, who gave us a 5-star review last week. We said we were going to get it because we still got one more 5-star review that's here that we want to read out. We'll do that tomorrow because we want to do one at a time. But Miss Teens says, Chris Carter's analysis of the Pittsburgh Steelers football is well-balanced and drama-free. He's fun to listen to, knowledgeable, and informative. A great daily listen. Thank you so much, Miss Teens, for your 5-star review. If you want to get your shout-out, please leave me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps out the show. We got another one coming tomorrow on the show. Hopefully, we'll have time to get Tony Serino on the show for a Tony Tuesday. We've had some tough times getting everything orchestrated there. But, again, we hope that we're able to get that done. So stay tuned. We got a lot more coming your way. Hang in there, Steelers fans. I know it's a tough Monday, but your team did fight hard, and there is hope that maybe there will be a way to salvage the season. From Chris Carter, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Carter Critiques. Be back on your screens and in your ears very soon.